Imagine a brilliant teenager who discovers his mother's boyfriend is secretly developing weapons-grade plutonium.
So what do you think?
Not bad.
Not bad.
So he decides to build his own atomic bomb for a science fair project. The Manhattan Project opens with this darkly comic premise, but audiences never quite knew whether to laugh or be terrified by a high school student casually constructing nuclear weapons in his garage. When the Manhattan Project hit theaters in June 1986, the timing seemed absolutely perfect. This was peak Cold War nuclear anxiety, just months after Chernobyl had terrified the world. Films like War Games and The Day After had proven audiences were hungry for nuclear-themed entertainment. Reagan-era fears about atomic warfare dominated popular culture. And here was a smart thriller that brought those fears right into suburban America. With a modest $8 million budget and backing from 20th Century Fox, the film seemed positioned for success. Instead, it managed only $4.2 million at the domestic box office. That catastrophic performance killed any hopes of establishing nuclear thrillers as viable teenage entertainment. So what went wrong? How did a film with perfect timing, scientific authenticity, and genuine talent manage to bomb so spectacularly? Today, we're exploring why the Manhattan Project exploded at the box office for all the wrong reasons. Let's start with what the Manhattan Project got absolutely right. The film's greatest achievement was its scientific authenticity. Director Marshall Brickman consulted real physicists who had worked on the original Manhattan Project. The plutonium handling procedures are accurate. The fission calculations shown on screen are mathematically correct. Former Los Alamos scientists praised the film's technical accuracy. Watch the bomb construction sequences. Every step follows legitimate nuclear physics principles. The centrifuges are actual industrial models. The radiation detection equipment functions properly. This wasn't Hollywood hand-waving about atomic science. This level of research was unprecedented for a teenage thriller. The production design effectively contrasts sterile government facilities with suburban settings. The secret laboratory feels clinical and threatening. The visual language emphasizes how nuclear technology hides in plain sight. Weapons-grade materials get processed in buildings that look like any industrial complex. But here's where the film's greatest strength became its biggest weakness. The realistic approach made nuclear weapons feel genuinely dangerous rather than entertainingly thrilling. Audiences expecting teen adventure got legitimate atomic terror instead. The scientific accuracy that impressed experts alienated moviegoers who wanted escapist entertainment. The tonal confusion starts with the premise itself. A teenager building nuclear weapons should be either pure comedy or serious thriller. The Manhattan Project tries to be both simultaneously. Comedy scenes feel inappropriate given the genuine danger. Serious moments get undermined by teenage hijinks. Brickman's comedy writing background shows in the dialogue, but comedy doesn't mix well with plutonium theft and nuclear terrorism. The film wants audiences to laugh at teenage ingenuity while being terrified of atomic annihilation. These emotional responses work against each other rather than complementing each other. The performances in the Manhattan Project reveal talented actors struggling with a script that couldn't decide what kind of movie it wanted to be. John Lithgow anchors the film as Dr. John Mathewson, the conflicted scientist developing weapons-grade plutonium. Lithgow brings his trademark intensity to every scene. He understands that Mathewson isn't a villain, but a man caught between scientific duty and moral conscience. Watch Lithgow in his early scenes with Paul's mother. He's genuinely trying to build a relationship while hiding his dangerous work. Lithgow sells the internal conflict without overplaying the drama. He makes government secrecy feel like a personal burden rather than plot convenience, but the script never decides whether Mathewson is hero, villain, or something in between. Christopher Colley delivers a committed performance as Paul Stevens, the teenage genius who steals plutonium and builds an atomic bomb. Collet effectively balances extraordinary intelligence with typical adolescent impulsiveness. His Paul feels like a real teenager who happens to understand nuclear physics. The performance works because Collet never makes Paul feel like an adult in a young body. The problem is that Paul's motivations keep shifting throughout the film. Sometimes he's motivated by scientific curiosity. Other times he's driven by anti-government rebellion. Occasionally he seems motivated by romantic showing off. Collet does his best with these inconsistencies, but even his considerable talent can't create coherent character development from confused writing. Cynthia Nixon provides strong support as Jenny Anderman, Paul's girlfriend, who gets caught up in his nuclear scheme. Nixon creates a believable teenage character who serves as the audience's moral compass. She asks the questions normal people would ask when confronted with homemade atomic weapons. Her growing horror at Paul's plan feels authentic and relatable. But Jenny exists mainly to provide exposition and moral objections. Nixon does excellent work with limited material, but her character never develops beyond concerned girlfriend who questions the hero's dangerous choices. The script uses her intelligence to explain nuclear concepts to the audience, rather than developing her as an individual. John Mahoney brings appropriate menace to Lieutenant Colonel Conroy, the government official trying to recover the stolen plutonium. Mahoney understands that Conroy represents institutional authority, rather than personal evil. He's doing his job protecting national security. The actor creates a believable military professional who takes nuclear terrorism seriously. The film's most effective sequence showcases the entire cast working together. It's the hotel standoff where Paul threatens to detonate his bomb unless his demands are met. The scene attempts to balance comedy with genuine nuclear terror. Lithgow shows Mathewson's scientific respect for Paul's achievement. Collet demonstrates Paul's growing realization of what he's actually created. Nixon conveys Jenny's absolute terror at the situation. But even this climactic scene suffers from tonal confusion. Are we supposed to admire Paul's scientific achievement or be horrified by nuclear terrorism? The actors commit fully to their roles, but the script won't commit to a consistent emotional approach. Here's the casting story that explains the film's problems. Lithgow was hired specifically to bring dramatic weight to what could have been purely comedic material. His presence was meant to ground the more outlandish elements in emotional reality. But not even Lithgow's considerable talents could resolve the fundamental script problems that made every character feel split between comedy and drama. The critical reception of the Manhattan Project tells the story of a film that confused everyone who watched it. Roger Ebert gave it 2.5 stars out of 4. He wrote that the film wants to be both a comedy and a thriller, and succeeds at being neither. Ebert appreciated the scientific authenticity, but found the tonal shifts jarring. His review captured the general critical consensus perfectly. Variety was harsher in their assessment. They called it an uneasy mixture of teenage hijinks and nuclear terror that never finds its proper tone. The Hollywood Reporter noted the impressive technical research, but questioned whether audiences would embrace such an uncomfortable premise. Critics could see what Brickman was attempting, but couldn't ignore how often it misfired. The film faced immediate controversy over its potentially dangerous content. Nuclear physicists who had praised the scientific accuracy began questioning whether showing realistic bomb construction was responsible. Some educators worried the film might inspire actual teenage bomb-building attempts. The very authenticity that made it special also made it genuinely concerning. Parents were completely confused about the film's target audience. The teenage protagonists suggested family entertainment, but the nuclear terrorism themes were clearly too intense for younger viewers. The PG-13 rating didn't help clarify whether this was appropriate for actual teenagers. Marketing struggled to position a film that defied easy categorization. Audiences were equally divided and confused. Teenagers expecting typical 1980s adventure found uncomfortable nuclear anxiety instead. Adult thriller fans couldn't take teenage protagonists seriously when dealing with atomic weapons. The film fell into that deadly middle ground where it satisfied nobody completely. The box office performance was catastrophic. Opening weekend brought in less than $2 million. Word of mouth was mixed at best, with many viewers feeling unsure about what they had just watched. The film disappeared from theaters within a few weeks. Fox quietly buried it and moved on to safer projects. International reception was slightly better, but still disappointing. European audiences seemed more receptive to the film's anti-nuclear themes. But even international success couldn't compensate for domestic failure. The global box office barely covered production costs. Some critics defended the film's ambitious approach to serious themes. They argued that nuclear proliferation deserved thoughtful treatment rather than pure entertainment. The scientific accuracy was genuinely educational. But thoughtful critics couldn't overcome the audience indifference and commercial failure. The film's violence and intensity surprised many viewers. Nuclear terrorism isn't typically associated with teenage adventure films. The plutonium theft sequences were genuinely tense. The bomb construction scenes felt uncomfortably real. Some audiences found the realistic approach more disturbing than entertaining. But home video gave the Manhattan Project an unexpected second chance. Cable television broadcasts introduced it to viewers without theatrical expectations. The film worked better in living rooms where viewers could process its tonal complexity without pressure. Repeated viewings revealed subtleties that theatrical audiences missed. Legacy. The Manhattan Project's influence on later works proves its themes were ahead of their time rather than fundamentally flawed. The film's realistic approach to nuclear terrorism influenced serious thrillers like The Sum of All Fears and Broken Arrow. Directors studying nuclear themes frequently cite it as an example of authentic scientific research applied to dramatic storytelling. The teenage hacker protagonist template can be seen in films like Hackers and Eagle Eye. Young characters using advanced technical knowledge to challenge authority became a standard thriller archetype. The Manhattan Project pioneered the idea that teenagers could be credible threats to national security through intelligence rather than violence. Television picked up the film's themes more successfully than cinema. Shows like 24 and Homeland explore nuclear terrorism with the serious tone the Manhattan Project attempted. The episodic format allows proper development of complex themes that 90-minute films struggled to balance. The concerns about nuclear proliferation became standard television drama material. The film's themes about dangerous knowledge accessibility feel remarkably prescient today. We live in an era where bomb-making instructions are available online. The democratization of dangerous information that seemed far-fetched in 1986 became reality with the internet. The film anticipated how technology would make previously classified knowledge widely available. Modern concerns about homegrown terrorism make the Manhattan Project's warnings feel prophetic. The idea that ordinary citizens could construct weapons of mass destruction no longer seems like science fiction. Recent incidents involving amateur bomb construction prove the film's core concerns were legitimate rather than paranoid. The scientific accuracy that hurt its theatrical appeal became an asset in educational settings. Nuclear physics professors use clips to explain fission principles and weapons design. The film demonstrates complex scientific concepts more effectively than textbooks. Students respond better to dramatic presentation than dry academic explanation. Streaming platforms have given the film unexpected new life as a historical artifact. Netflix and Amazon Prime viewers discover it as a unique example of 1980s nuclear anxiety. These accidental discoveries create renewed appreciation for its ambitious approach to serious themes. Younger audiences watch it as a period piece about Cold War fears. The film's reputation has improved significantly with critics and film scholars. Modern reviews praise its willingness to tackle uncomfortable subjects with scientific rigor. The tonal problems that hurt theatrical receptions feel less important when viewed as historical document rather than entertainment. Recent nuclear proliferation concerns have renewed interest in the film's themes. North Korea's weapons development and Iran's nuclear program make the film's warnings about atomic democratization feel current rather than dated. The concerns that seemed theoretical in 1986 became practical geopolitical realities. Film schools now teach the Manhattan Project as an example of how good intentions and thorough research can't overcome fundamental structural problems. Students analyze how the script's tonal confusion undermined excellent performances and authentic production design. It's become a cautionary tale about the importance of consistent vision. The Manhattan Project isn't just a failed thriller that bombed despite perfect timing. It's a fascinating case study in how even the most well-researched and well-intentioned films can fail when they can't decide what story they're trying to tell. Sometimes having too much respect for your subject matter can work against dramatic effectiveness. Do you think the Manhattan Project was too realistic for its own good, or could it have succeeded with clearer tonal direction? Should films dealing with dangerous real-world knowledge prioritize entertainment or education? Was this a missed opportunity to create a new subgenre, or proof that some subjects are too serious for mainstream entertainment? Share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more deep dives into the films that tackled important themes but couldn't quite.